You might be surprised to know that I agree with the Conservatives when they say that Canadians are paying far too much in taxes. We are. And if you watched my video on the economy, you'll know that the corporate income tax only makes up 15.2% of the federal tax revenue. So only 15.2% of all the money that the government of Canada has to invest in infrastructure, transportation, research and development, things that directly benefit corporations doing business here in Canada. You'll also remember that Canadians' personal income tax makes up a disproportionate 49% of that federal tax revenue. Now, this talk about reducing the carbon tax and how the carbon tax is the tax that broke the camel's back is almost like deja vu, because it's the exact same principle that Stephen Harper won on last time around. He wanted to reduce the GST. Now, the similarities between the GST and the carbon tax is they are both user-based taxes. So they affect both corporations and private users the same. It's based on the use of the service. So for GST, based on the transaction, and for the carbon tax, based on the use of oil and gas. Now with Harper, when Stephen Harper's Conservatives reduced the GST by 2%, which benefited all transactions, both personal and private, they then further decreased the corporate tax rate from 21% to 15%. Now, for comparison, the corporate tax rate currently in Argentina is 35%, Mexico 30%, India 35%, South Africa 28%, Canada 15%. Now, if you watched my video about the economy, which I will link to below, you also know that tax revenue is pretty much the amount of the GDP that actually benefits Canadians, right? And between 1983 to 2006, the annual federal revenue averaged a 13.3% of the GDP, which is still the lowest of the OECD countries. But under Harper, that fell to 11.4%, which meant that only 11.4% of Canada's whole economy was used to benefit Canadians. It just wasn't enough. That meant no money was invested in education or Medicare, the aforementioned infrastructure, transportation, increased the daily cost of living for all Canadians, because those costs that the government's typically helped us with fell down to a user-based system, pay per use. More money was spent on everything, nickel and diming Canadians to death. And that brings us to today. Failing infrastructure, rampant homelessness, theft, drug addiction, mental health issues now treated like criminal issues because they were underfunded to be supported since 2006. Our community workers are currently being driven away in hordes because of raising house prices, and more Canadians are a single paycheck away from poverty. Greens want to reduce your taxes, but they want to reduce your taxes without reducing corporate taxes. By raising the basic personal income amount, that puts more money directly in the pockets of Canadians. Greens agree with the Conservatives. You are paying too much in taxes. What we don't agree with is that the corporations are too. We need the corporations to pay at least their fair share so that we can reinvest in the benefits that we all deserve. Infrastructure, roads, clean water, healthy workers, healthy Canadians. It works together, but it doesn't work together when you and I are supporting corporate handouts. We're going to talk more about the FTAA. We're going to talk more about how free trade agreements. I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff in here. So I just want you to know that you, Canadians, you're paying too much, and there's different ways to do this. And also, Canadians, our corporate tax rate is lower than the one in India and Mexico. Thanks. Oh, and my name's Mandolyn Jonathan. I'm no longer your nomination contestant for Courtney Alberni, but I am a Courtney Alberni constituent who is still voting Green. Thanks.